Hello, hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello. How you doing?
Good.
This is Scott?
Yes, it is, Scott. Is this Mark?
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess Jim's not going to make it.
Yeah, I just saw that email. So I'm going to record it though, so I'll send it to him. So that's fine.
Okay. Perfect.
So you want to give me an update how we're doing? I mean, I got obviously a lot of the emails you sent out. So you feel the progress is good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not to your numbers yet, but we're slowly but surely heading in the right direction. So we thought if we could get the text on with you. We got 5 guys here that are plus 10 guys this morning.
Okay.
And
yeah, I saw one. Yeah, one of the emails you sent over, it was the first month of tracking. It was pretty neat to see. I don't know if you saw, but your closure rate from Comfort Advisors was 65%. You know, where I preach it's going to be 66, and yeah, that was neat to see that first tracking that you sent over. So yeah, I was like, well, look, obviously, same thing I thought was, we get a few texts to fully understand this, and then may only send them. Y'all are going to blow it out of the water. So, all right, well, if you just want me to get started, I'll just do what I do, and we'll go from there.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. So let me get some names first of all, so I can just put it in my record. So who do we have the techs in the room?
Eric Frazier.
Okay.
Chris Andrews. Chris Freeman. Jeremy Canada. Keaton Tabert.
All right. So Jeremy, you said Jeremy Canada? That's pretty cool. Sweet last name. What was the last gentleman? I didn't get his name.
Keaton Tabert.
Repeat that one more time.
Keaton Tabert.
What the hell? How do you spell that first name? What'd you say it was?
It's like Michael Keaton without the Michael. Keaton, Keaton.
Keaton. Well, hell, Jeremy, all right. Well, he's got a cooler name than you. He beat you out. All right. All right. So guys, I mean, I can just start now. Let me ask you this, Mark. Has any of the guys here watched the video I did with your managers, or did y'all just try to roll it out from there?
Just rolled it out from there. Yeah. So.
Okay. So I just didn't want to do a bunch of repeating myself. So I'm just going to treat this as, as obviously y'all haven't even done the process. So, all right. So first of all, y'all are familiar with the ABC process, John Conway's video, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Familiar with it. We haven't seen the video.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So option A should be your immediate concerns. Option B, now in his video, what he explains is option B is system enhancements. But I'm gonna go, if y'all are gonna be the turnover guys, right? Then we're gonna change option B some. I'm gonna tell you the do's and don'ts and what you can never do on a 10-year-old system, because a lot of things will create confusion. So I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna I'll go through a few things on his video real quick. I'm not gonna spend a bunch of time on it. And then what I'll do is I'll open my screen up and just walk you through the option sheet and how it was designed and tell you a little bit about it. So first of all, in his video, if y'all are familiar, and if you haven't watched it, Mark, I really recommend they watch it, because John Conway does extremely a good job of talking about the pillars of trust and how you've got a short amount of time that you have to gain empathy, you have to go over your expertise and set the expectations. So I'm going to tell you the way I do it versus the way the video does it. Okay. I mean, John's very process driven. I'm process driven, but I'm supposedly a sales expert. So there's a little bit of a twist. So let me ask you a few questions real quick. In the room, have you ever been to a call when you give a customer a price on any repair, or you've talked to them about a new system, and they tell you that they're moving out of the house and you don't feel they are?
Every day. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been to a call where maybe somebody says I have to speak to the landlord and you actually feel they're the homeowner?
Never across that.
Okay. And so I'm going to tell you, sometimes that happens and you just believe them that they are the renter. Because at my businesses, we didn't run rental properties. And now some areas you have to, depending if it's an area that's prominent. So I'm going to give you two things here that and that basically I'm going to teach you how that a customer will never tell you they're moving again unless there's a sign in the front yard. Okay? So when I show up at a house, obviously I come in and I meet the customer, and I'm going to have some kind of pillars of trust statement. And let's just say, and I say that the three legs of it is empathy, expertise, and expectations. And you got to do this pretty quickly. So let's say I show up today and your heat's not working. Well, first of all, I want you to erase the word furnace. I want you to erase the word air conditioner from your vocabulary. Because we do a bad job. And just to let you know, I am a technician, so we do a bad job of splitting those up, meaning that we get focused solely on one. And that causes a lot of problems, causes warranty calls. Just to give you an example, I mean, I personally ran a call and a lady's, had a capacitor that was blown. I replaced it. Now, this is many, many, many years ago, and I replaced this capacitor. She called back, I don't know, a month later, saying it's doing the same thing. It's not working. She's a little irritable. I get out there and it's the contactor. Two totally separate things. But how do you think that call went? I mean, I spent the majority of my time trying to convince her, and then I ended up doing, half of the work, or I'd end up negotiating for free because in her mind it was the same thing. Does that ever happen to you? Okay. And so if you do the ABC process correctly on systems like John Conway's, the video, if you do it correctly on systems that's less than, say, 8 years old, somewhere around there, it will eliminate warranty calls. It will eliminate a lot of things, But again, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because John Conway does a great job. We're only going to talk about 10-year-old systems today, okay, because that's the group y'all are. So I show up, and let's say your heat's not working. Well, the first thing, I'm going to come in and go, hey, let's just say that Jeremy's my customer. I'm going to say, hey, Jeremy, I know how frustrating it must be to have your heating and cooling system not working. I'm always going to combine them. Okay, this is going to set up full systems for the comfort advisor. So, and Mark, as I mentioned, you got to eliminate furnace and air conditioner from your CSR's vocabulary as well. So I'm going to say, Jeremy, I know how frustrating it must be to have your heating and cooling system not working today. Rest assured you, this is what I do every day of my life, and I'm going to get you taken care of today. So you see, that was a little bit of empathy and just an expertise statement. I didn't go into I've been doing this 50 years or 28 years. I didn't go to it and say I've done, I didn't spend a bunch of time on it, right? So then the next thing I'm going to do before I set my expectations, and this is where John and I differ. I'm going to give you some little sales tips here because we want to overcome objections before they come out. Right? And that's the best way to do it. We want to close all those doors before they have a chance to come up. So this is where I'm going to say, rest assured, I've been doing this all my life. I'm very confident I'm going to get you taken care of today. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is say, so if you don't mind, Jeremy, is it okay if I ask you a few questions? So this way, when I determine, what's wrong with it, I'll know the best way to fix your heating in your system. Is that okay, Jeremy? He's going to say, yeah, that's not a problem. So the first question I'm going to ask you then is I'm going to say, and this you have to ask these next three questions at 100% of your calls. So the next question I'm going to and you probably ask these questions, but we got to do it at the right time. You're going to say, well, Jeremy, how long have you lived in this home? Let's say he says 5 years. And I'm going to just pop off very instantly and very rapidly. I'm just going to go, is that when you purchased the home? He's going to say, yes. So now by doing that, just those two there, this man can never tell me, right, that he has to talk to his landlord later when I give him a price. Because I'm telling you, a lot of customers, if you ever get that and they say, well, I got to talk to my landlord, I'm telling you, they're probably the homeowner. and that's an easy way to get out of it. So that's one thing I'm going to do, right? Is just say, so how long have you lived in the home? He says, I don't know, 5 years. It really is that when you purchased the home? Yep, sure is. Okay, now Jeremy, this is the most important question I'm going to ask you. How long do you plan on to live in this home? And let's say Jeremy goes, I'm not going anywhere. I said, well, Lord willing, then you're going to retire here? Yeah, sure. Really, where do you work at? I work at, Burton's. So now, when this guy just told me up front, when I said, how long are you going to live in the home? He said, I'm not going anywhere. Or he'll say 10 years. And if he gives you a year number, go ahead and say, I'm curious to why you said 10 years. Get him to open up a little bit. But the key here is when you ask this question up front, I mean, like within minutes of arriving, he's going to tell you the truth. So he tells me he's not going anywhere. So later, can now Jeremy tell me he's moving?
No.
No. So this is why you ask it here. Because you've heard of flight or fight, right? So what happens is when a customer gets close to having to make a decision, they have a few options. And they're going to get backed into a corner. And most people in life aren't trained for that whether that's stress or that situation. So a lot of them are going to tell you little fibs to get out of it. By you asking these questions up front, they can't tell you the fibs later. So I just want to give you that piece. But now the next thing is I'm going to use the years that Jeremy's going to live there as the reason to set my expectations. Now we at Nexstar, if you see, we teach to set expectations on every call, and there's actually an expectations agenda card, but the top guys won't use it because that makes it look like a presentation. And I want y'all to be the top guys. So when I say, now Jeremy, this is the most important question I'm going to ask you. How long do you plan on living there? He's going, let's just say he goes 10 years. And I get him to talk a little bit about 10 years or whatever, about his kids or whatever. Then I'm going to say, well, Jeremy, since you're going to live here 10 years, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and do a thorough evaluation of the entire heating and cooling system. Now, if I should happen to notice any concerns that will cause you problems over the next couple months, what do you want me to do about it? And he's either going to say, fix it, let me know about it, bring it up. It's very important that you ask that question. And so Mark, what I'm going to recommend y'all do is y'all go back and you listen to this audio and you put it in writing, of what I've just said, and y'all just role play and practice that. Because now what happens, again, you go over things, and as technicians, a lot of times we beeline stuff. We're task-oriented people. So we'll go straight to whatever our mission is. And by setting this up, meaning going, if I should happen to notice any concerns, concerns that's going to cause you problems over the next couple of months, what do you want me to do about them? And if they go, well, bring it up to me. So later, if I'm too task-oriented, your customer's going to actually go or have this feeling, well, you're just trying to sell me something instead of educate them, right? Because if we go too fast, that's what's going to happen. And then you can say, well, you know what? Later in the call, you say, and if the customer, let's say the customer goes, well, I don't know if I need all this. I just feel like you're trying to sell me something. I'm just saying if this ever happens. Then you can say, well, Jeremy, do you recall when I first got here, I asked you if I saw any concerns, what did you want me to do? And you said, bring it up. And you told me to. So, Jeremy, that's why I'm bringing it up. I mean, I don't mind keeping secrets. I was the best secret keeper in Miss McCauley's third grade class, and then he'll go, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, and you'll be back to where you're going. So does all that make sense so far?
Yeah.
All right. So then I'm going to go ahead and just get started on the option page and what it looks like. I'm not going to spend all the time that repeat everything John Conway's gone, but I'm telling you, you need to watch this video probably 3 or 4 times, and then y'all need to practice what I've just given you here. Because my main goal, is I want to change your paycheck, right? I want you to make as much money as possible, as honestly and ethically. So all right. So real quick, let's go over the option page and what we should do. Now, remind me, Mark, do y'all use paper or are you using tablets? What are you using?
Yeah, we're using paper.
Okay, so you always want to use paper. I don't care what anybody tells you. Take it from a sales guy. The results from paper to tablet are it's so much different. If you want to be the top guys in the nation, always use your paper, right? So then you have some kind of observation. Let me go and open my screen up, and some call it summary and findings. I think that was the original name. Some people call it observation and findings, but your option page. So you got the top piece, right? And that top piece, you tell me when you can see my screen pop up.
There, clear.
Okay, so it's just an Excel sheet, and I'm just going to type in here, but I'm going to explain as I'm doing things. So your observation needs to be, a walkthrough of how you got here today. Don't just put, I'm out here for a no cool. If they got multiple systems, tell me what floor it is. Like, to give you an example of an observation, I'm not going to spend time on this piece, but to give an example, it's something like this. I was called out to Mary's house because her heating and cooling system is not working. During my evaluation, I determined that, let's just say it was the capacitor blown. So during my evaluation, I determined that the starting capacitor was blown. Don't abbreviate. People don't know what abbreviations are, right? It gets them confused. I also went through the entire system and did a thorough evaluation, because Mary had some issues in the past and she's not going to be moving anytime soon, right? And then you can just say, this way she has a good understanding of everything. See my findings below. I mean, that would be a really good example of what you write on top, because I want to tell you something. What you're writing up top is not for Mary. What you're writing up top is for the husband, is for the neighbor. Mary's going to hear everything you say, right? This is why everything you write up top is for anybody that comes in after the fact. That's all it is. And so you want to think it's education for anybody that wasn't here getting education. Okay? So then let's go through the way I would personally show you how to write up your actual option page. Okay? Now I'm gonna go ahead and, since I got you, I'm gonna go ahead, because I'm not gonna probably do ever a call with you again. I'm gonna tell you some things you need to do on every call. I'm not gonna spend time on it, but I'm just gonna tell you and explain. So your customer, you need to help them 5 times a call. You need to call them smart 5 times a call. In some way, you need to be able to save them money 5 times a call. And when you do this, they're going to start to like you. They're going to want to be around you. So one of the opening statements I say at the door, like I might just introduce myself. Hey, I'm Scott Brinkley with Burton, Home Services. My main goal is to help you however I can today. That's all I'm saying, is you say things like that. Let's just say on a call, if you're looking at something, you might go, let's say they agree to turn it over, right? And you might look at let's say it's a split system and your disconnect looks in really good shape. You can say, you know what, Mary, this disconnect here looks really good. I know when the comfort advisor comes out, he normally replaces it, but with your permission, I'm going to ask him if he can reuse this, because that would definitely save you some money. Is that okay? And they're going to be like, well, hell yeah. And so that's an idea or a example of saving money. So calling them smart would be doing this. They look at, let's say you're out there and the capacitor's blown, right? You get them out there and you show them the condenser or whatever you have, whether it's a packaging or not. I don't remember what area you're in. You show them a condenser and you said, now look, Mary, this device in the middle, this large device, this is the compressor, and it's the heart of the system. Okay, this device here is the capacitor. It's just like a pacemaker. Basically, it kicks the heart in. So I've already checked the heart. The heart's in good shape. So at this point, the heart's not basically kicking in. So what do you think's wrong? And they're going to say, well, I guess this pacemaker's out. And you calling them smart would be something like this, going, oh my God, you should be a tech. If we rode together, I'd get my job done a lot quicker. Just making small statements like that, and they're going to want to be around you. Okay? So help them 5 times, smart 5 times, save them money 5 times. Now let's go through the option page. I'm just going to actually copy what I've got, another one written up on another screen. I'm just going to put it on this one so you can see it. So your A, I want you to make it simple. Just put whatever's wrong. In this example, let's say it's a contactor. And I don't know your prices, and the prices are relevant. It doesn't matter. Okay, your B, in John Conway's video, his B says, list anything that's going to, basically anything that would potentially go wrong, right? And system enhancements such as air cleaners, air scrubbers, UV lights, humidifiers, all that. I'm going to tell you on a 10-year-old system, you should never, ever, ever list a system enhancement. Because here's what's going to happen. You're having a conversation with this person about their system's old. Maybe they want to look at a new one, and now you're trying to add an air cleaner. We are different people as technicians, meaning that we are analytical. We know how things work. As a matter of fact, you can take a styrofoam cup and I could give it to every one of you in the room, and y'all have a good idea of how that's made. The average human does not. And so this is why when you start saying an air cleaner, they don't know where the air cleaner's installed. And so they start to think this, or I don't care if it's air cleaner, air scrubber, humidifier. They're going, wait, he's telling me to look at a new price, and now he's wanting to put a new part in it. They don't know it's a separate device that's installed in the ductwork. And so what happens is now the customer gets confused. And as everybody knows, confused people bottle up and they do nothing. They literally lock up. So I'm telling you, so Mark, whoever the service manager is, right, if they ever see anybody in this room ever write up a system enhancement again on a 10-year-old system, I want you to slap them with a Slim Jim. Just whip them in the leg like Dumb and Dumber, right? We don't want that to happen. Okay? So let's go ahead now, and I'm just going to, as I explain this to you, let me tell you how, because I want you to understand how this thought process came. So again, I was a tech. I was in the field, and I said, you know what? I'm going to write the perfect process for turning over, and I did, right? And so what happened? The results were astounding. Well, I first went to teach 16 techs how to do this. And those 16 techs, you know, because this is what I'm gonna give y'all the brief version because I don't have much time. I got less than an hour. So I went into these 16 techs and we spent an 8-hour day. And I said, look, I've written the perfect process, but everybody here has the knowledge to do so. So we're just going to forget what I've written, and we're going to now go through what I went through in my mind, how I wrote the process. And then I'm just going to lead you on a little bit of a direction, but I'm going to let y'all build it. So me and these 16 techs spent 8 hours in a room together. And what we did was we wrote down everything on a furnace, a heat pump, everything. Now, Mark, remind me, in your area, what percentage of systems are gas and what is heat pumps? Or do you even have heat pumps in your area?
We have a few, but I would say we're gas-wise, predominantly 80-90% gas.
Okay, so we'll focus on obviously gas only, and then, but in this example, they were 100% gas with it where I was at. This was up in a Minnesota location. So I sit down with these techs, right? And I said, so I want you to write down 100% of things, right, on a furnace and an AC system that we can get related to safety. You know, safety, okay? And so I want to tell you this, your top turnover guys, you'll get all your turnovers from 3 key areas. And y'all are pretty good. And I say y'all, most technicians are pretty good talking about safety. They talk about heat exchangers. They talk, if you see, you know, something, a board that's got hot spots on it, or you see a contactor that's really burnt, pitted, and it's chattering, most techs are really good about safety. Well, and so we wrote down every single part that, you know, on this big dry erase 8-foot board about safety. The next thing we did, I said, all right, let's talk about reliability, because that's another key component we have to get to is reliability, meaning that what is going to break in the future or what has the potential to break in the future. So I'll tell you this, technicians are really good about safety. They're okay with reliability. And I say that when I'm talking, you know, I had thousands of technicians. I would review their paperwork, and when I say this, I mean they're pretty good with safety. They focus on that reliability. Okay. Now the last one I'm going to tell you is the key to your turnovers, and technicians are terrible with this one. It's not because, you know, maybe they just didn't think it, but I can tell you this, because they don't train this one in school at all. If you've ever been to a tech school, they don't focus on this one. I'm going to save the last one for a second. So So safety, reliability. So me and these 16 techs, we wrote all these things down, and we said of all these safety items, we're going to write a statement, meaning in B, instead of listing, because the video, John's video, says list everything that potentially could break in the next year. Well, when you do this and you start to list out, well, a compressor, $2,800. You list out, whatever it is, heat exchanger, $1,800. You start listing all this, it looks like you're trying to sell all these items because it's just a list. And especially if the customer doesn't come home, doesn't purchase or turn over, then the husband comes home, it really looks like you're selling these items because he wasn't there. Even though you spoke to her and said, these aren't bad, these are potentially going bad, you putting it in a list form is not a great idea. Because again, the person that's going to look at it after the fact is going to see it as you're trying to sell them something. Okay? So I want you to realize you're going to put a statement in here, and this statement is easily held accountable from the service manager. So let me show you what my statement looks like. Now, Mark, have they seen this statement? Have you gone over any of this that I went over with the managers, or is all this going to be brand new?
No, they've seen all these.
Okay, cool. So now you understand how I came up with all this. I came up with it in the field, but then these techs are just, they're just like me. So here's what we came up with. Basically, we all agreed 100% of heat exchangers over 10 years old would have some kind of temperature discoloration, but that doesn't have a lot of value. So we came up with a name. We called it temperature stress points. It's got a lot more value. So during my evaluation, I noticed extreme temperature stress points on the heat exchanger. It's still in safe operation now, but when it fails, it'll cost around $1,800. So this is a statement we write on 100% of gas furnaces over 10 years old. And if they don't write the statement, well, Mark, that's where the service manager, they're going to say, well, it's a new furnace, and that's okay. They just need to turn a picture of the furnace in. So this way, the service manager can hold them accountable. Well, the last one is efficiency, okay? And where I said techs aren't good at this one is because they don't train it in schools. I wanted to have a way, and just to let you know how this was originally designed, I wanted to have a way of educating the homeowner on their efficiency of their system. And there's two ways to do that. We can either save money or they're going to overpay money. And I'll tell you this, just to let you know in sales, there's 12 key things that can drive you to a sale. And then there's two motivators, or two ways to deliver them. One's called pain, one's called gain. And I'll go ahead and tell you, about 90% of people base their decision off of pain, P-A-I-N. But the sad part is, we as technicians, or humans anyway, majority of us present gain. And the average person really doesn't care about gain. Only about 10% of people truly love gain before pain. To give you an example, when we sell an air cleaner, we're saying, well, if you purchase the air cleaner, is the way they're going to hear it. If you purchase the air cleaner, your allergies are going to get better, right? Well, that's a gain, right? Meaning they're going to gain something from it. You're going to have less dust. You're going to have, whatever it is. You're going to get all these benefits from it. Well, now, do you realize, though, in order to gain, they have to purchase. In order to purchase, they have to go through the emotions of purchasing, which then starts to put this customer in a very uncomfortable position. So pain is different. Now, pain, the way it works is if they decide to do nothing, meaning they don't have to purchase anything. Give an example on an air cleaner. So if we don't take care of this today, there's a potential that the allergies are going to get worse. There's a potential, or you're going to get more dust, So you see, they don't have to do anything to feel the pain. So I just want to let you know, presenting pain is better. But now I will tell you this. You can only present pain before you know what's wrong. If you present pain after, it's considered a scare tactic, and they'll take it more emotionally. So you got to be very careful with it. But I'm going to show you how to present pain here on efficiency. So I'm not going to talk about saving money. I'm going to talk about overpaying money. So let me just copy this because you're already familiar with it. Let me just paste it over. So here's the efficiency statement. Due to the condition of the outside system, so just to let y'all know, we did the same thing on the outside system, right? Meaning the condenser. I literally erased the word condenser from my vocabulary when I'm talking to a customer because they think a condenser, a contactor, a compressor is all the same thing. They think the blower motor and the condensing fan motor is the same thing. So this is why everybody knows where an outside system is. If I ask 100% of people, a homeowner says, where's your outside system? If I say your indoor blower motor, they now know it's not the outside one, right? So there's a lot of thought process that went into writing this because we're writing it for the average person, not the technician. So due to the condition of the outside system, the indoor blower motor, and the combustion chamber, all we mean by that is your heat exchanger, your burner assembly, your orifices, everything, right? These are causing you to overpay about 28% of your utility bills to keep this thing running. So the idea of where we say this thing, the idea is almost to make them feel it's obsolete. Like a good way you could do it, and I'm not telling you to, but a good way to make them feel it's obsolete is if you said the word dinosaur. If you said the word dinosaur, they'd be like, whoa, this thing's old, right? I'm not telling you to say that. I'm just saying it's an easy way to persuade. So have y'all been writing it up this way so far?
Yes.
Okay. And then the overpayments, let me tell you, most techs don't know how to check the SEER rating of a system. And that's why I told Mark, I said, Mark, I'm just going to give you the averages. I know how to check the SEER rating. And if any system running, I can run you through and tell you what it's truly operating at. The problem is, I'm a ductwork expert also. Most techs are not. So they might check the SEER rating. It's operating at a 6, but it might be operating that because of line set, ductwork, something else. So I'm just going to give you the averages. Now, are y'all using those averages, the ones I gave, Mark?
Yes.
Yes.
Sweet. Okay. So then the last portion, so I wanted you to understand the idea behind this and how it came up. So the last piece, obviously, I think y'all are writing it up that way. There's two ways to do it. I'm going to give you John Conway's way, and I'm going to tell you my way. I don't know which one you're doing. John Conway's way is maybe it's time for a system update. My sentence I write is a little bit different, same point. Let me just put it right here. Maybe it's time to upgrade the system to the energy standards of today. Because I am focused. Let me tell you something. Your turnovers, the majority of them will come from this. You have to find out how long they're going to live there up front. Once you do that, this will come very relevant, right? Because if they're going to live there 10 years, they're going to lose 28% of their investment as long as they do nothing. This is why it's very important that we get that information up front. So if you, since y'all are familiar with this now, you're familiar with the overpayments, how we do that. If you're whatever you're taking out, I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and just copy and put over here the overpayments, and so you can see them because maybe you'll use this in future for training. All right, if it's 10 to 12 years, they'll lose 2 SEER on average. If it's 13 years to however many years, they'll lose 1 additional SEER. Now, guys, y'all weren't on that call, so just to let you know, this is the average of all heat and air systems we checked. I will tell you that Trane and American Standard, for whatever reason, held their efficiency better, but they are still in these averages, though. So you have some systems that would lose more than 2 SEER, but because Trane and American Standard were a little more efficient for whatever reason, or their compressor held efficiency better. And the idea is, and Mark, you're in a 14 SEER market, is that right? Or 13?
13.
Okay. And even though like some places are in 13, some manufacturers are not making 13s anymore. So if you're in a 13 SEER market, then you look at it like this. If you take a 9 out, meaning let's just say it was a 12 SEER that was 19 years old, well, you're going to lose 3 SEER. So you're going to actually go, I'm taking a 9 out. I'm putting a 13 in as a minimum. So your overpayments is 31%. And that's what you would write here. You need, as a technician, to determine what their overpayments are. And you need to understand how you did it. So if they ask you, okay. Now, the other key to that is you have to compare to a 13 or what the minimum is in order to call it an overpayment. You legally can't put a 16 in here and call it an overpayment because now that's savings. They could save up to 44%. But remember what I said about savings? In order to save, they have to buy. That puts them in a negative position. You don't want them to, you want them to feel you don't care what they do. Your job's to set the lead. Okay? So you want to compare it always to a 13. That way you can honestly say overpayments. And the reason it's overpayment, the government mandates we put a minimum of 13 in. So therefore it's an overpayment. All right, does that make sense? And what questions do you have, if any? No questions?
I have a
Go
question.
ahead.
I have this is Jeremy. I have a question.
Yep.
So the last part you just went through, the percentage of overpayment is coming from the logic of we're taking out X and putting in our minimum efficiency standard. And
Yes.
that's where that number comes from.
Yeah, so it'd be the same as this if you had a car, and let's say your car had 15 miles to the gallon, and you buy one that has 30. Now, then you're actually overpaying 50% on your gas bill.
Right.
But now the issue with a car, they don't mandate you have a minimum, so therefore you couldn't use the word overpayment. But yes, sir, that's exactly correct.
Okay.
Okay, and you just put what again? If it was a 10 SEER and it's 20 years old, you're going to say 7 divided by 13 minus 1. So Mark, what I recommend you do is you just give them a quick calculator. Maybe you show them how to do it. But if you look, I'm going to click on this and you'll see here's the formula up here if you can see it. I'm basically taking this one, take what I'm taking out, I'm dividing that by what I'm putting in. That's going to give me the difference between the two. But when I hit -1, it then is taking that away from 100%, therefore telling me my overpayments. Okay.
Hey, Scott, we did the math for them on every system and hand them a little chart that they just look at.
That's fine. That's fine as well. I just want to make sure they understand it so they can speak with validity and confidence. Okay.
Yep.
So do you want me to go through the way I present this now?
Yes, please.
All right. So again, you remember when I first got here, I asked you how long you're going to live there, right? And all that stuff. That stuff is very relevant to the way I present it. You have to ask those questions. So I'm going to come in and, just to let you know, they have to see the stress points or the discoloration on the heat exchanger. You're right. They have to see the funk on the blower wheel, the buildup. They have to see anything on the, so everything here is about efficiency. Everything here is about reliability and safety. So I'm not going to write this heat exchanger statement unless I've taken a video of it. Like if, let's say they can't get up in the attic with me. Well, at that point, I'm going to ask permission to take a video. I'm not going to do pictures. When I do a video, I'm going to say their name several times in it. Therefore, they know it came from their house. I'm going to say, Jeremy, look at this, Jeremy. He has no doubt it's his house. Okay? So when I come in, I'm going to say, hey, Jeremy, you got a minute? Let me go over what I found. Sure. So we sit down. I'm gonna actually have my statement up top, my observations and findings statement. Like obviously I don't have one written up here, okay? But I would read it to them just like I read to you before. After I do that, I'm gonna say, well, believe it or not, Jeremy, there's only one thing that you have to do to get this system up and running. You got to replace the contactor. That's that, that thing out there I told you, it's like a switch, basically turns it on and off. And it's going to be $312 to replace it. And then I'm going to, now don't make yours red. I'm just showing you how this is red for a reason. So I'm going to say, I'm going to wait just a second, see what the response is. Because they might go, what about everything else we saw? But that's really good. And they might go, I'm never going to talk about a new system anywhere. If I'm out there at the heating and air system, the condenser, right? And if they I'm never going to persuade or talk to them about replacing it. I want them to be their decision. Just to let you know, people love to buy, they hate to be sold. So if I start pushing them, I'm selling them. I want you to be very neutral. Okay. So at this point, whether they say anything or not, they might say fix it. They might say, well, what about everything else? Regardless, I'm just not going to pay attention. I'm going to go, well, Jeremy, do you remember when I first got here? You know, you told me you were going to live here for at least 10 years to marry, got out of high school. He was like, yep. Well, that's when I made the decision that I was going to do that thorough evaluation because, you know, you said you had some issues in the past and you just didn't want to go through these again. So I did my thorough evaluation, and I know you're with me, but let me just read it to you, how I put my findings in writing. Okay, that's all I'm going to say, just like that. I'm going to remind them why I did it. And then I'm going to say, well, let me just read it to you, how I put my findings in writing. I'm going to say, during my evaluations, you can say we if you want, while you're there, and it's not a bad idea every now and then. If the homeowner was with you, you can put in here, Jeremy and I noticed. It's the more you use their name, the better. Like I always use their name a lot up in my summary and findings. But I'm gonna say during my evaluations, if you could put Jeremy and I noticed the extreme temperature stress points on the heat exchanger. Okay, it is still in safe operation, but when it fails, Jeremy, just to let you know, it costs around $1,800. Now this is the first time Jeremy has heard $1,800. Okay, I'm not trying to sell it to him. You might say, well, damn, our heat exchanger is a lot more than that. I'm okay. I don't want you quoting more than $2,200. And you notice it says around or about. This is, again, you're not trying to sell this product. I've never presented this and a customer goes, hey, give me that heat exchanger. This is just education. You're wanting them to feel the pain. You're wanting them to go, I'm not going anywhere, and there's a possibility it's going to fail, and when it does, it's going to hurt. That's all you want this to do. So I say, Jeremy, just let me read it to you. During my evaluation, I was extreme temperature stress points on the heat exchanger. It's still in safe operation now, but when it fails, it costs around $1,800. Wait a second. You want them going, God dang, $1,800? Yeah, Jeremy, buddy, them things are expensive. That's all you're going to do. Again, and if they go, well, that's a bunch of crap, they shouldn't because you're not trying to sell it to them. So then you're going to say, well, Jeremy, this is going to be foreign to them. I don't want you talking about, I don't want you telling them that you've checked the efficiency of the system. But when you looked at this blower motor and you saw funk built up all over the wheel, that's where you're going to make a statement. You're going to go, golly, look at that wheel, all the stuff on it. I guarantee you that's affecting what it's costing this thing to run. I guarantee you that's affecting the energy bill. So you're going to make several statements throughout. When you see the condenser and the fan, the fins, the coil fins are bent in for whatever reason, you're going to say, I guarantee you that's affecting how much energy this is using. So you'll say that several times. The combustion chamber, you see rust all over it. You see the flames are uneven. You see, orifice stopped up. That's where you're going to say, golly, by this running this way, I guarantee you that gas bill's high. Does that make sense? So as you do that, when you get here, the puzzle is going to start to come together. So I read this to him, I wait during my evaluation, and then I wait a minute and go, now, Jeremy, you remember when we went through, there were several things that I made a statement on that I actually said, that will affect the energy bill. You had so many of them, I decided to go ahead and check the efficiency of this, basically to see, if it was costing you any money to operate. So let me just read this to you. Due to the condition of the outside system, the indoor blower motor, and the combustion chamber, right? These things are causing you to overpay about 28% on your utility bills to keep this thing running. And I'm just going to wait. Give it a minute. You want them to digest it. Okay, so any questions so far before I tell you where I go next?
No.
Okay.
If you keep bringing efficiency and you keep saying, yeah, this is guaranteed, this is affecting the energy bill, guaranteed, this is affecting the efficiency, do you ever have customers pick up on what you're trying to do?
No, because remember, when I say that, all I'm doing is saying, well, I'll tell you this, some of them will do this. Well, so you think it's probably time to replace it? They'll start asking you that through the call, right? And when somebody says, I never give my opinion, what I do a lot of times, I will say this. I had a customer that, remember, I already know the most important information, how long they're going to live there. That is key when you get that up front. You heard me say, this is the most important question I'm going to ask you. Let me silence that. All right. How long are you going to live here? Right. And then, because let's say they're going to live there for 10 years, right? When they say, well, would you replace it? And I said, well, I mean, I don't know. I said, I'll tell you this, if I was only going to be here, 1 or 2 years, I'd probably just keep this. But if I was going to be here a while, I mean, it definitely might be beneficial to look into it. How long are you going to live here again, Mark? And so you see, I answered your question. And then I say that I gave an example of what I would do in the circumstance if I was going to live there a few years or if I was going to be there forever. And then I just treat it like I don't even remember how long they're going to live here. I say, Mark, how long are you going to live here again? And you go, well, I'm not going anywhere. So now you know what your answer is going to be. It now persuades their answer the way I do it. Okay. So, but regardless, let's just say you get here. If you don't have any questions, these are red for a reason. You don't make them red on your paper, please. They're red here just so you focus on them. So after I read it to you, I don't go over C yet. And let me go and delete this one because I don't use system update. Let me just.
Hey, Scott, I'll ask you a question. This is Trent.
Yes.
Hey, on that 20% that you came up with, you're doing the sear side of things. You're not doing the furnace side of things. So I was wondering.
Okay. Yes. So to answer that, what happened was with these 16 guys in a room, we went through the minimum in most areas is still an 80%, even though like some areas we're still going to put a 90 in because it's easier or they already have a 90. And so what we did was we went through everything that affected efficiency on that. And I spent a lot of money years ago trying to come up with the true way. How can we truly see what it's costing us to operate? And I had a lot of experts tell me, well, yeah, if it's rusty, it's going to cost more. But I never could come up with the math on it. So what I did do was I went through a standard motor, meaning a blower motor, single speed, and basically said, if we take that out and we put one with the variable speed in, what's the difference? And it wasn't much. It might have been a lot on that as a percentage, but it wasn't much dollar amount because they didn't use it much. And then I went through a draft inducer. I went through basically a new furnace compared to a 15-year-old one. And we said, all right, you're probably going to see about 15 to 30% savings on the electric bill on that one, even though that it's not much electricity that it uses. And you are going to see a gas savings. I don't know what it is. So we went through these 16 texts and I said, so what do you feel comfortable with? And so this is why you have to be comfortable with this. So when they come up, let's say you came up with 28%. Well, most techs would probably drop that 3 or 4 or 5% because they said that they didn't feel comfortable that the furnace was going to save them much. They knew it was going to save on electric. So again, I want you just to give an idea. And if they ask you how, you say, well, I have a way of checking, the condenser, the outside system, and walk through it. So
yeah, I mean, the word about gets you out of a lot of that anyway. So
yeah, but so in that 8-hour day with those 16 techs, we spent probably an hour and a half on the furnace. Just
right.
Again, I wanted them to feel good with it. Okay, but good
my
question.
second question, Scott, that part B, when you're listing that stuff out, I've been in plenty of situations where there's past history where they're spending probably close anywhere in the last 5 years, like $1,200. Would you say something as far as the concern part in part B of the past history that they've already spent money on the furnace?
You could. I will tell you this. I would rather you just talk about it.
Okay.
Because what's gone is gone. But if I knew that, I would bring it up.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd put it in writing. Because again, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I did. So to give you an idea, this way, my top guys turn over 86% of every old equipment turns into a lead. if they do it correctly. The top guys. My bottom guys do 60%. And I'm saying bottom, if you do this process and do it correctly, and I'm gonna give you, we only got 9 minutes left. So let me go through how I present from B to C, and then I'm gonna go through the few rebuttals that you will need. So once I get here, let me go and copy it so you'll see, you'll have it on your screen. Let's see, I've got like 20 things open here. Let's see if I got it on this one. Yep, I got it right here. Cool. All right, and so I'm gonna bring it over here and paste it just the way you got it, and I'll send you this file, Mark. So once I get here, basically I go, wait a minute, regardless, they might say, all right, well, you know, I don't care what they say pretty much. So once I get here, I go, Mark, my biggest fear, and I point right here. I don't say the 312, they've already heard me say it. I go, my biggest fear is you're gonna spend money today, right, to get this up and running. I point right here at the 1800 and I go all along, right? And you're going to have a potential. So my biggest fear, you're going to spend money to get this up and running. You're going to have a potential repair. And I just say in the next 6 months. Okay. All along while overpaying to keep this thing running. So at this point, that's why I'm going to recommend C. And this is the first time I've used the word recommend. And let me tell you something. You never put the word recommend in writing, ever, unless it's a death situation. They got holes in the heat exchanger, recommend replacing it. They got a draft inducer, or, you know, a B vent pipe, whatever, got holes in it, recommend it. Other than that, never use the word recommend. It can get you in trouble. I use the word, don't put it in writing, what I'm saying. So at this point, I'm going to recommend, you know, it may be time to upgrade your system to the energy standards of today. So just to tell y'all something, at my shops, when we took out heating and air systems, the guys, the installers, had to come in and give us the information, you know, meaning what kind of job was it. I'm looking at my next call real quick to see what it is. So because I think I'm probably gonna run over 5 minutes. All right. So my installers brought in the job name, the customer's name, and I had my own recycle facilities. They turn these in when you do that much volume. Well, what happened was when they turned them in, the most important thing I wanted to know was the system running. Now, you ready for this number? It's gonna make you sick, or it's gonna show you your opportunity either way. 85% of the units we replaced were running. That shows you people do proactively change things. I mean, people buy new cars even when they got a new warranty. We as technicians think they don't. You know how many times I get technicians go, well, why would they change it? It's got a warranty. Well, shit, you know how many times people buy cars when they got a warranty? That is idiotic. We don't need to make the decision. We're different than them. We already established that. So at this point, you know, if you do this correctly, I mean, I had guys that go to 6-year-old unit, and he's so used to presenting this, he wasn't even supposed to be out there, and he presents it. The customer goes, all right, well, and it might not even be overpaying much. It might be 10%. Okay, so at this point, they're going to say, well, what does that look like? What do you have to do? Can you give me a price? So I'm going to tell you. Now, Nexstar preaches give a price range. I'm going to tell you supposedly I'm the #1 in-home sales trainer in the nation. I don't do it much anymore. I'm going to tell you, don't give a estimate. Don't give a price. Because what you would do is you would kill my average ticket. If you said from 5 to 12 grand, I show up and my average ticket's 11 grand, they're questioning, why am I not at 5? So here's what they're going to ask you, is they're going to say, well, how much is it? You get to ask that every day probably, do you, right? Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you my response. It's the only response I found to work correctly if you do it correctly. Because if you go, well, I'm not supposed to tell you, no matter what you say, that's what they hear. Okay? Unless you say this, I just simply look at them and go, you know, Jeremy, I'm a technician. I know how to fix everything, right? And then I go, just because the mechanic can fix the car doesn't mean they know what they cost. I know this, a convertible costs more than a non-convertible. a four-wheel drive costs more than one that's not four-wheel drive. So I don't keep up with that anymore because there's so many options. We have a guy that's all he does, super nice guy, and he'll let you know. But I just simply tell him I don't know. And if you don't say the words you don't know, they'll beat you up. And they'll go, oh, come on, you got to have some idea. But when I tell them I don't know, and I honestly, sincerely say I don't know, well, what's going to happen is if they say you have some idea, it's now going to put me in a position to where they're starting to call me dumb. And people won't do that. If in the real world, if I don't know if Mark told you, but when I was in the military, they made me a human lie detector. So I know a little bit about communicating with people. Okay, so I just simply say, look, I'm a technician. I can fix everything, right? Just because a mechanic can fix a car doesn't mean know what it costs. And then I give them an example, and then I end it with, I gave up with keeping with that stuff years ago. I simply don't know anymore. We got an expert that does it, and blah 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 blah. Okay, so then you go to set it up. Now you are going to get some objections here if you didn't do a good job, and those are normal. Don't think that those are bad, because if objections means that they have this emotional tie, they're starting to feel it, and so they give you an objection. If you did a terrible job, they're just going to straight up lie to you, and you need to be able to turn the difference between the two. But let's say here's one you get. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and fix it because it is working. Has anybody ever told you that?
Yeah.
Okay. When they say that, here's what I want you to say. Well, Jeremy, you're correct. It is working. It's supposed to work for you, but it's working against you. It's actually working for whatever your utility company is. Let's just say it's Smith County. It's working for Smith County Utility Company. So one thing, Jeremy, is the only thing I can guarantee today is when I leave, you're still going to overpay this 28% on your bill. So every $100 you give Smith County Utility, you're giving them $28 too much. And so you can even say something similar to this. You're giving them 28 too much. As a matter of fact, Jeremy, you're paying for a new system. You're just not getting it. You're paying the utility company. And then you can end it with this. And I always end it with a non-threatening statement when I'm overcoming an objection. And one of them would sound like this. Jeremy, buddy, I'm not asking you to purchase a new system. I just think at this point, since yours is running, or since, let's say there's nothing wrong. Because you know how many times that we get right here, we'll write no immediate concerns, and they still buy a new system. It's because of this dang statement right here. Well, it's because of both of these, but this is the best one if you present it correctly. You say, because Jeremy, I'm not asking you to buy a new system, but I think you agree it's going to break. And when it does break, it's going to break when you have the biggest demand. It's going to be either in the middle of winter or the middle of summer. And that's the point when heating and air systems cost the most. Or that's the point that you're going to be stressed out the most, and your wife's just going to be saying, just get one. So you're more apt to overpay during that time frame. So again, Jeremy, I'm not asking you to buy a new system. I just think at this point, since yours is running, it'd probably be a pretty good idea to proactively get a price. That way you know what you're looking at. So let me go and call Mary and get it set up. Does that make sense?
Yep.
What if, no, this is Eric.
Yep.
What if they turn around and, well, I need to talk to my wife, or I need to talk to my husband?
Okay, so, and I teach more about sales you'll ever imagine. So here's what happens. When they say that, that's one of three responses. It's either an emotional response, it's either a learned behavior, right? Or it's a lie. It's one of those three. Now, here's what the key is. I'm going to tell you it's an emotional response about 80% of the time. But we as humans don't know how to communicate emotional responses well. Meaning your wife smacks you or she yells at you, you yell back at her. We know that's not the right thing to do, right? So let me address that real quick then. If they say they got to speak to the wife, since we as humans don't know how to communicate emotional responses, we communicate it either as it's the truth. But the problem is if it's a lie, right, or emotional response, we just now lost it. So most of the time texts do this. Well, can you get him on the phone? Have you ever presented a price? Let's say it's $1,000. Let's say it's a repair. He goes, well, I got to speak to my wife. You go, well, can you get her on the phone? Yeah, let me call her. Hey, honey, I got a guy out here. I got to repair $1,000. Okay, she said shop around. Have you ever seen it happen like that? And
Yeah.
everything
Yep.
you worked for just went out the window. That's because that was the truth. He had to speak to her, but you didn't know the steps to go through the close. Because there is a close that I wrote years ago called the phone close that will teach it if it is the truth. In the truth, it's and I'm telling you, it's not a lot of times. A lie is not a lot of times. So I want you to treat every time they say that as emotion response. And here's how you do it. You do what's called acknowledge, you empathize, and you bypass. So here's the way that sounds. Well, I would like to do this, but I got to speak with my wife or husband or whatever. You say, well, I can understand that. I would feel the same way if I were in your shoes. So just suppose you did speak to your wife and she said it was totally your decision. Do you think you'd go ahead and set the appointment up for today or tomorrow? You're just going to acknowledge, you empathize, and you bypass it. Whatever they said, just suppose you can say, just suppose your wife was here. Which one do you think she would go with? That's a way of bypassing it. Just suppose you spoke to your spouse, right? And she said it was totally your decision. Do you think you set the appointment up today or tomorrow? And if it was an objection, if it was an emotional response, they're going to answer you and still move forward. All right. If it's truly an objection or a learned behavior, meaning what I mean by learned behavior is like when, so let's just say, Keaton, when you went to school, did your teacher say one day you're going to be given a price? I want you to throw your hands in the air and say you can't make the decision today. And they're going to say, no, they didn't teach me that. So I'm going to tell you that's an emotional behavior. When they say they can't make the decision today, that's 100% BS. Everybody can make a decision. Them saying they can't make the decision is actually making a decision. That's how stupid that statement is. So when let's say they need to speak to their spouse, that is initially an emotional behavior. There are some people that becomes a learned behavior, meaning they bought something and their wife beat the hell out of them for doing it. And they have now learned that they're not going to do that anymore, which that's a small percentage of people, probably 15. About 5% of people are going to lie to you. More will lie. If you have negative parts about you, if you start pushing, that number will go way up. But when you master everything else, you're not going to have that many lie to you. Okay? So you want to acknowledge, empathize, and bypass. Now let me give you a quick example, and we'll have to end the call. So I had a guy that I was teaching a class. I don't remember what location it was, but I remember this guy named Scott Davis. He goes, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. You're telling me when somebody says they got to speak to the wife, they don't mean it. I said, yes, sir, about 80% of the time. He goes, well, that's stupid. I don't believe you. I said, well, with that attitude, you'll never make it in the world because you decide what you're going to believe or not. And I don't care. You can decide you don't believe 2 + 2. It doesn't mean, or 2 + 2 is 4. Doesn't mean it's not 4. Right? And so I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to ride with you. So I went to a call, and I'm going to address 2 things on this story to you. So I go to this call, we pull up, and I said, I'm going to run the call 100%. You're going to be just a helper, right? And he was an HVAC tech, and I was going as an HVAC tech, even though I'm a plumber and electrician as well. But so I go to this call, and there's a sign in the front yard that says for sale. I said, what does that mean to you when you see that? He goes, that means they're not buying anything. I said, no, sir, that means they're buying 100% of everything I have to offer. He goes, that is stupid. They never buy anything on these calls. And I said, because you present gain. Yeah, if you present gain on a call that's selling a house, they will never buy anything. You're right, because they have nothing to gain. When you present pain, they will buy everything. So now I walk to the front door and I tell if I see a for sale sign in the yard, I tell my pain story 100% of the time on every call before I go in. So here's my pain story. It's a true story. I'm going to tell it to you. So instead of you saying my father-in-law in the story, you can say my friend's father-in-law. And then you tell the same damn story. So I said, hey, I see you got a for sale sign in the front yard. You moving? He said, yeah. I said, where are you moving to? He said, Florida. He said, we're retiring. I said, oh, great. The world lets, somebody gets to retire. I'll probably never be able to. And I said, that man, congratulations. And I said, you know what? My father-in-law just sold a house. Let me tell you what happened to him real quick. And I just tell this story. I said, well, basically, him and my mother-in-law were getting a divorce. I hate it, but they are. And they said they're going to sell the house. Now, he has a basement house where the basement is finished. And every time it rained, major rain, it would leak water into this basement. it would leak up through a crack in the floor. So he had a company come out, actually had 3 companies come out, and they gave him prices from $13,000 to about $30,000 to dig these fancy drains around the house and put them in. He said, hell no, I'm not paying that. So what he did, he went to Home Depot and bought a bucket of hydraulic cement. You ever seen hydraulic cement? That's the greatest stuff in the world. It dries underwater. So I tell this story, and I go, he put it in the crack, put the carpet back, and listed the house. He sold the house. I get a phone call. He said, Scott, you're not going to believe this. I said, what is it, Larry? He said, I just got a lawsuit in the mail for $50,000. I said, what the hell did you do? He goes, well, remember that house I sold? I said, yeah. He goes, I had a water problem with it. I didn't disclose it. I said, you idiot. You didn't disclose it? Golly, that's like the rookie move of a homeowner. And so the next thing is, I said, you need to call and try to settle because you're going to lose 50 grand and court costs and everything. And so I said, he did call and he settled. And well, quite frankly, it cost him $40,000. And so I tell that story, and then the last thing I do is I go, could you imagine sitting on the beach in Florida and something like that happened to you? That'd be terrible to go through that now, wouldn't it? And the homeowner goes, now look at here. I tell this story before I find an issue. That's the key. That's how pain works. If you tell that story after you find an issue, that's a scare tactic. Never tell a pain story after you find an issue. Now, you notice you heard me say I tell that story on 100% of the calls I go to. It's got a for sale sign in the yard. So now I go here, and this guy, he's already got the house sold, even though it didn't say sold. He said the inspector said I need a new condenser outside unit. He was very push-offy and said, I don't want you trying to sell me a full unit. I've already got estimates, and everybody wants to sell me a full unit. I said, buddy, I'm just here to help you. If you want me to fix this unit, I'll fix the unit. Well, no, I got to replace it. He says replace it, but I appreciate that. And I said, all right. I said, I do need to look at the other half of the unit to make sure the one I put in will be able to talk to it, though. He said, all right, well, that makes sense. I said, where's that located? He said, it's in the crawl space. I said, beautiful. And so as I walked to the crawl space, I'm getting ready to go in. His access was in his garage. I sat there and looked at him. I said, sir, now, when I go in here, if I should notice any other concerns, do you want me to bring it to your attention or keep it to myself? He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, look, I'm not a bug guy. I don't get rid of bugs, but I don't like them. If I go under there and notice 1,000 spiders or a bunch of crickets, I'm just saying, do you want me to tell you about that or just keep a secret? He goes, well, no, I haven't noticed any, but tell me about it. I said, okay, great. So as I go in this crawl, I do see water around his pillars. Ain't much, about 3 inches. And I said, hey, did the inspector bring these up? And he goes, no, I didn't even see that on there. What is that? And I said, what's water? He goes, well, where's it coming from? I said, well, I don't know, but water's not good in a house. You start to get mold, you start growing on things. So he goes, well, what do I need to do? I said, well, honestly, you probably need to put a pump in here and put some little gravel trenches going to the low spot and just pump it out, And so all he's thinking is my father-in-law's story, right? I didn't ask him. He goes, well, do y'all do that? And I said, well, we got plumbers, but if you want me to get a plumber out here to give you a price, or if you don't care, since we hit it off so good, I'll just call him and get the price and put it on the same proposal. Is that okay? Yeah, that'd be great. So I'll write this up. Now, let me tell you something when you write things up. Now, this ain't about sales, but I wanted to tell you this real quick, how pain works. And so as I write this up, right, you sometimes in sales, you want to write things up they're not going to buy just to give them something to say no to. Okay, so I write up an option is a 10-year parts warranty, 1-year labor to put a pump and a new condenser in. I write up the same option, 5-year parts warranty, 1-year labor with a condenser and a new pump. And I lump summed them. So you notice I didn't give him the option not to do the pump. I put it all in one price. And then I said, I did what's called the choice assumption close. It is the strongest initial close you can use when you're offering a product, because you should never ask a yes or no question in sales unless both questions are right or both answers are right, or unless 100% you're going to get the answer you want. So I said, I sit down with him, and I'm telling you a story because I want you to hear the acknowledge, empathize, and bypass at the end of it. So Scott Davis is sitting over there in a chair. The wife is on a couch. He's in this other chair. And I walk up and I sit down with him at my option page. I said, sir, I've got everything written up here. You want to go through the options real quick? Yeah, that's fine. Let's go ahead. I said, sir, so here's what I got. I tell you what, let me just read it to you. And so I read my initial, my summary and findings or whatever you want to call it. I read it. I said, so option number one, now this is the choice assumption close. I said, sir, option number one, we know you're going to do this option, the minimum option, because you are selling the house and you got to get this done. So again, we know you're going to do this one. So you hear me? That's the assumption. I said, so let me read it to you. We're going to replace the outside system. Okay, we're going to put a pump in the crawl space. We're going to dig trenches, put gravel in them so it drains to the pump. This comes with a 5-year parts warranty, 1-year labor. This is $6,500. He already told me he's a cash buyer. We found that out earlier. I said, this is $6,500. Now, option two is the exact same option as number one. The only difference is it's got a 10-year parts, 1-year labor warranty. So since we already know we're going with option number one, let me ask you this. Is it worth the additional $1,500 to get the additional 5-year security? Now, you see the way this close works? If he says no, I'm just going to go, I agree with you. I do the same thing in your situation. If he says yes, I'm going to say, I agree with you. I do the same thing in your situation. Okay? If he says anything other than yes or no, I'm going to acknowledge, empathize, and bypass. So at this, let me tell you though, this guy, it was perfect. He throws his hands up in the air and goes, whoa, I'm not going to make the decision today. So the average human does this. When are you going to make the decision? So if that was an emotional response and they add validity to it, I now turn that into an objection and I'll lose the sale. That's the worst damn thing you can ever say. Somebody says they're not going to make a decision. Well, when are you going to make it? You just killed your damn sale. So all I said was, well, I understand that. I agree with you. I do the same thing if I were in your shoes. Just suppose you made the decision today. Is tomorrow still a good time to put this in? He looks at his wife and goes, honey, are you okay with tomorrow? She goes, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, she wasn't going anywhere. She was on the couch. She ain't moved the whole time I've been there. And I said, great. Now that we know we're putting it in tomorrow, is it worth the extra $1,500 to get the extra 5-year security? He goes, well, hell no. I'm selling a house. Why would I do that? So you see, I wrote that bigger option there to give him something to say no to. And I said, well, great. I do the same thing in your situation. Let me go ahead and mark through the one you don't want. Please initial here that you don't want this one. He did. I said, initial here that this one we're putting in tomorrow. He did. We walked out of that house. I was 15 feet off the front porch, and Scott Davis, this technician, goes, hey. I said, what? He goes, what the hell just happened? I said, what? He goes, you are one voodoo son of a bitch. This man throws his hands in the air, says he ain't going to make the decision, and within 15 seconds signs a $6,500 agreement. I said, Scott, that's because he said he had he wasn't going to make the decision. That's no different. Him saying he's got to talk to his wife. He didn't mean it. 80% of those people don't mean it. It's an emotional. And so what you can't do is react to it. You can acknowledge it. Like I just said, you cannot add validity to it. Right? And so that's so a long story to get to your question. What do you do when they say they got to speak to their spouse? You just simply go, I understand how you feel. I would feel the same way if I were in your shoes. Just suppose you spoke to your wife and she said it's totally your decision. Which one do you think you'd go with? And they'll either make the decision right there or they'll do this. They'll make the decision and go, well, but I still got to speak to my wife. At that point, it's okay to get her on the phone. But you'll still lose the sale if you don't know the phone close or have a huge potential to lose it. So the only reason I let this run over because when I looked, my next call was actually me recording closes for the new class that we're going to have for Dan Friesen, the trainer. The trainer. I was like, so I can run over on this. I don't have a call next. So, what questions, if anything, do you have?
Hey Scott, could you just role play real quick when the customer says, instead of in yours you did that, hey, we're going to be here 10 years, they say, oh, I'm going to move in 6 months to a year?
Yeah. So when they say, All right. So how long now let's just say I say, how long have you lived here? And you say, well, I've been here for 20 years. Wonderful. Or or if they say they've been there 5 years. And I said, really, where'd you move here from? So I do all that. Now I say, is that when you purchased home? Yep. Now, Mark, this is the most important question I'm going to ask you. How long do you plan on living here? Let's say they go, I'm going to be moving in 2 years. I said, really, 2 years? It's pretty weird you said 2 years. Any particular reason? Like you got a kid graduating high school or something? Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Mary's getting out of high school and Tom and I are going to be leaving. I go, wonderful. Now, I'll tell you this, Mark, since you're going to live here 2 years, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and do a thorough evaluation of the entire system. This way you'll be able to know everything about it. Now, if I happen to notice any concerns that's going to cause you problems in a couple months, what do you do about it? So I still say the exact same thing, so I don't have to think about it. And I use however long they tell me they're going to live there as the reason to go through this. So I don't change any of that. Later, let's say it comes up here. And they go, well, you know what, Scott? I presented all the options to them. They go, you know what, Scott? I mean, this all makes great sense, but I'm going to be moving here in a year. So let's just keep what we got. Okay, because that will come up. They don't care about this overpayments now. It's no different. If this is almost like a rental property to them. They don't give a crap about the person overpaying on their bill because they're only going to overpay 1 year. They don't even care about this so much, meaning the cost, because they're willing to gamble that year. So at this point, it is a different buy. So all you can do at this point is you got to realize we expect you to turn over a minimum of 60%. Another way to look at it is I expect you to not turn over 40. You're not going to get them all. You're not going to get them all. But now what I do say there, Mark, just to let you know is so you are going to be selling the house? Yep. Okay. And when do you plan on selling it? Around 6 months. Okay, I will tell you this. Do you know what the number one thing is? And then here's the thing. When you ask people yes or no questions, or you ask any questions, you have the potential to call them stupid. And you've heard me say I've already called this guy smart 5 times during the call. So I'd say, do you know what the number one thing is that people or that new homeowners look at when they go buy a new home? Of course you know. Look who I'm talking to. I'm sorry. Well, you know it's heating and air units. I know why I asked you. So you see, I'm calling you smart again and giving you the answer. You might go, damn, I didn't know it was that. You're not going to argue with me and go, you know what, I'm dumb. I didn't know that. So so at this point, you're going to go, they're thinking, all right, it's heating in there. You say it's heating in there. And you're going to say, so here's what happens. They come in and they see this house and I'm just going to tell you, here's what happens. They see if his heating and air unit's in this shape, right, and he didn't keep up with it, there's a potential he didn't keep up with other things as much. So they'll want to dig in deeper and dig deeper. So I'm also going to tell you that's the first thing they want replaced. So you have an option. Here's what's going to happen, and I've seen it happen a million times. You're going to list the house for 400 grand or whatever you list it for, and with an old system, they're going to walk in and go, oh, they want a new one. They're going to get the highest quote they can possibly get, $20,000, and then they're going to try to negotiate your price down. So, and you're going to end up paying for a very, very expensive unit, and you didn't even get it. Versus when you are proactive, you get to shop around. You get to purchase what you want in only the cheaper systems, right? And you get to purchase a cheaper one and put it in. Matter of fact, you get to save on your energy bills for the last year while you're here. And then you get to eliminate all these other problems it creates. So, Mark, I'm not asking you to buy a new system, but I am telling you this. It'd be a really good idea if you at least looked into it and see what it was going to take. Because, matter of fact, Mark, if you're going to sell the house within a year, we have a program that you could buy the unit now, and you ain't got to pay for it until you sell your house. How sweet would that be? And all that is 1 year same as cash. But I didn't use the 1 year same as cash terms. I used their own words. Does that make sense? Okay, so gentlemen, sorry, I need to get off here. Mark, what I'll do is I'll put this into a video. I will send it to you, and then I'm also just going to send you this little Excel file just so you have it for reference.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott.
All right. Well, gentlemen, good luck. Hopefully we've made a difference, and you're going to change some lives today. All right. Well, thank you. Y'all take care, and if I ever talk to you again, I'll see you then. If not, have a wonderful life. Have a good Christmas. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.